In this lesson, I'm going to explain how you can put objects in motion and then customize their motion paths. To follow along, go to Working Files, After Effects Projects, and open up 0503 Motion. I have two comps here, one with this tennis court and then one with this little ellipse, and we're going to work with this one first. This is a shape layer with an ellipse in it, and if you recall when I talked about shape layers before, they have two property groups by default, transform and contents. Transform has its own position property, and contents has the ellipse, and inside the ellipse property group, there's its own transform property group with position there too. So I could animate position using either the ellipse's own position property, or I can do it for the entire layer, the entire shape layer. So we're going to stick with the entire shape layer here because it'll work equally. I set this up so that the anchor point is in the center of the ellipse and also in the center there of the layer. So it'll work just fine in this case. So to put something in motion, we change its position. So I'm going to open up position for this layer by pressing the P shortcut key. And there's position. And to set the starting point for the motion animation, you need to turn on keyframes. You need to click the toggle animation switch. So there you go. Now it's on. When I click the toggle animation switch, it automatically adds a keyframe, and the keyframe will have the values of the current position. But as long as I'm on top of that keyframe there with the current time indicator, I can move it to some other place, change those values, and it doesn't add another keyframe. It doesn't cause motion. It just means that this keyframe now has new values. So we're going to start the motion here in the upper left-hand corner. Now let's say we want to go in a couple of seconds here or so and move it someplace else. So I'll move it over here, or maybe down here like that. All right, now you can see it's got this little motion. It's going to go like that, from there to there. Let's go a little bit farther here. Let's say 4 seconds. I want to bring it up to here. And now notice what just happened. It has a curve there. When you have more than 2 points, After Effects automatically creates a curve to the motion path. This is called the Bezier curve, named after a Renault automobile company engineer who designed cars using Bezier curves. They weren't invented by him, but he did popularize them, so they're called Bezier curves. And the Bezier curves have little handles on them. If I click on this, let's say middle keyframe there, you see it has 2 handles there. We'll talk about the handles a little bit later. Let's go a little bit farther here and just drag this guy down there. And there's another curve. A little bit farther, we go to 8 seconds, let's say, and bring it up to there. And go to the end and bring it, let's say, down to the bottom. Let's just see how that plays out. All right, it's going to follow that little motion path there. Off it goes. Slows down a bit, speeds up a bit, slows down, and gets really slow there. So what's going on here? Well, first of all, you're seeing this motion path. You see it kind of peel away as we go along. The fact that it peels away like that is because of how it's set in preferences. So if I go to Edit Preferences in Windows or After Effects Preferences in Mac, go here and then go over to Display. And you see right now it's set to no more than 15 seconds, and that 15 seconds is related to working in base 30, meaning a time base of 30 frames per second. So that's the default, and even though we're actually less than 10 seconds here, it does say that's no more than 15, so sometimes it offers up less when you see the motion path. We'll just cancel out of that. You can expand that, or you can have it show all of the keyframes. So in any event, we see most of the keyframes here as we move along. Now, as I move back here, you're going to see that the keyframes change as we go in there. So they start disappearing there. Okay. Each of these little blocks here is a keyframe. So if I click on, let's say, the second one there, remember the second one's down here. I'll click on it, and it's highlighted now. You see that it's a solid square. I'm going to click on this one here. You'll see that it gets highlighted too. Notice the little dots here. Each dot is a frame. So they're 30 frames per second here in NTSC. So if you were to count those frames, you could see how many frames there are. Probably about 60 from one dot to the next, because we go for 2 seconds between each set of keyframes there. So there are 60 frames there basically between each one. Notice that if the keyframes are close together as they are here, physically close together from here to here, here in this time they go from here from 2 seconds to 4 seconds, but the distance traveled from here to here is less than the distance traveled from here to here. So since it's less distance in the same amount of time, the little dots are closer together, and that's telling you that this is going to be slower when it goes from that point to that point. So the first one will be faster because the dots are spread out, and then it's going to slow down, and then it'll spread out again, so it'll go faster, slow down because they're relatively close together, then really slow down because they're much closer together. If I want to speed something up, for example, I can move these guys closer together. So right now, we have this thing going from there to there pretty fast. If I put it over like this, it's going to go much faster because I'm spreading them out. There are fewer frames now between those 2 keyframes. Let's see how that goes. zip, and then it goes really slow. Now you might notice that when it gets to a keyframe, it instantly changes its speed. That's instant acceleration, which is not realistic. We're going to talk about something called easy ease in the next lesson where we make it more realistic. But right now we're just trying to adjust the motion path there. Let's say I want to change the motion path. I don't really like the fact that it goes way down here to the lower left-hand corner. I can select that keyframe. If I click on it, then I've now selected it. And I can move it, let's say, over to here or over to here. If I click someplace else, that will just turn off the keyframe, so that's not going to help any. But if I want to change the keyframe, let's say right there, let's say I don't want it to be sliding along, I want to add a keyframe. If I grab this guy and just move him, that's going to add a keyframe. Notice how the keyframe popped up there and there. Go over here a little ways. Let's say I want this keyframe here to be added. Not right there, but we'll add it over like that. So we can add a keyframe simply by changing the position at a new time where there is no keyframe present. Let's say I want the first keyframe to be different. I'm going to navigate to that keyframe using these two triangles here. Left one takes us back to that first one. If I grab it and now move it down over here, let's say off screen, then it'll come in from there. All right, we have these nice curves, but is that really what we want? We can adjust the shape of the curves, how sharp the angles are here, using these Bezier handles. Not only the Bezier curves, but they have Bezier control handles. So let's say this guy right here is really a sharp angle because it sort of has to be in terms of how close they are together, but I want to spread it out. So I'm going to click on this guy to select that keyframe. And notice when I do, these little handles pop out there. If I pull the handle out like that, then it changes the shape of the curve. See how that works? Notice that they work in concert with each other. If I tilt up like this, the other one tilts down. I can drag this guy as well, like that. All right. So we can do that for all these guys and adjust the handles for all of them if we want to. Now notice how they all work together. We can have them actually kind of work against each other if we want to. We can break the handles. Let's say I don't want it to have a nice curve there. Let's say I want to come in and whack and then come out like that. I'm going to change the handle here by holding down the Alt key in Windows or the Option key in Mac. Hold that down, then click on the handle, and that breaks the handle. See how they're not working together anymore? So I can give them this kind of sharp edge there. Now they'll work independently. If I want to turn them back on again, hold the Alt key again, and then they'll pop back together again. Hold the Alt key to break it. Hold the Alt key to get them back together again. Alt or Option. Alt in Windows, Option in Mac. So let me break it again, holding down the Alt key here in Windows, the Option key in Mac, and break that. Now that they're broken, I take my finger off the Alt or the Option key, and I can adjust them like so. Let's do one more just so you get how that concept works. This guy, we already smoothed that one up, but I want to make this curve a little more abrupt here. It's hard, I'm not really sure where that keyframe is. Let me just navigate to it by clicking over here. Ah, that's the one. So I click on it, that'll highlight it. Sometimes it's hard to find the handles when the object that you're working with is right on top of it like that. So I'm going to move the current time indicator a bit there. And there are those two handles. So I can adjust them like so. But I'm going to break them again. So I'm going to take my mouse off them for a second, hold on the Alt or the Option key, and now I'll break them like so. There we go. Cut like this. Now I can let go of the Alt or the Option key. Once they're broken, you can let go. All right, let's just see what we've done here. Go back to the beginning. I'm going to get rid of this path by just clicking away from the shape layer to deselect it. Now you just see the guy moving through the screen like that. And one more little curve down to the bottom. Then it'll start all over again. Okay, so that is how you add motion. I'll click on the shape layer so you can see the motion path again. And that's basically how you can add motion and adjust the curves or adjust the motion path using the handles and also adding keyframes or taking keyframes away, by the way. You can always click on a keyframe and say, well, let's get rid of you. I'll click that and delete it. That changes that whole path like that. All right, let's try something using some video. I'm going to go to the motion tennis comp. What I want to do is I want to fly in that text back there and fly in this tennis ball. So first of all, I'm going to turn off visibility for the tennis ball because it's kind of in the way, right? Clicking that little eyeball, turning it off. What I want to do is I want to bring in this tennis anyone text and just fly it into the screen. So I want to fly, and let's say starting right after this guy hits the ball there. We'll fly it in, starting right about there. So I need to open up this layer's position property. So that layer is called tennis text, so I select that and then press the P key to just open up position. There we go. I'm going to turn on keyframes for there. Now, the fact that it's in the wrong place is no problem. I'm now just going to drag it to the right place. Let's say over here. Can't really see it over there. I need to sort of shrink down the view, or you need to zoom out. So I'll go to, let's say, to 12% so we can see. That's our bounding box right there. So that's our first position. And then we'll just bring it in, let's say, Around 2 seconds or so, we'll bring it in. So I'll just slide it over, or I can change the numbers here. I'm going to change the X value there. So there's the X value. If I want to drag it to the left, I start pulling it this way. But you see how slow that is when you're just dragging like that? Well, if you hold on the Shift key, it'll go faster. It goes a bit faster, like accelerates up that motion a little bit. All right. So now we've got that motion. Let's see what it looks like. It's going to look very rigid. There you go. Let's give it a little bit of a swirl or a swoop to it. So I'm going to click on these handles and maybe have it go down like this, perhaps. And have this one go up. So it kind of settles in, maybe like that. So let's see how that looks now. Go down and then zoom like that. Okay. Let me zoom out on the comp view again by holding down Shift / and that'll go to fit. There you go. Let's bring the ball in now. Click on the ball and turn on its eyeball. I obviously need to change its scale here. What I want to do is I want to follow the motion of one of the balls that's hit by this instructor there, Steve. So we'll just watch this for a second. And now he's going to hit the ball. And now right about there is where I want to have this ball fly off his racket too. So first of all, I need to change the scale. So I'm just going to drag the scale down. Now I'm going to hold the Shift key to constrain the proportions, getting it way, way down like that. Now I'm going to change its position by dragging the center of it right to Steve's racket there. Now I'm going to open up both scale and position here for the tennis ball. So I press S for scale and then Shift P to have two things showing at once. And turn on keyframes for them because these are the starting positions, beginning of the change of the animation. Now let's see if we can follow this tennis ball there from there to stand here. So I'm going to have that tennis ball follow that route, but I'll have to do a little bit of adjustment after the fact. What I want to do now is just make sure that I move it to that spot. So I'm going to take it there and move it to that spot. And we'll deal with the arc a little bit later. And then go a little bit farther forward here and have it, let's say, about this point, end up over here between the Y and the N. So we'll just drag it over there. Now we're going to fix the motion here in a second. We're also going to fix the scale. Now I've got that starting at basically nothing. By there I want it to be pretty large, maybe even larger by about there. So let's scale it up by just dragging the scale value here. By changing the scale value with the current time indicator at a new place, that automatically adds a keyframe there. So let's see how that looks now. It's going to go, here it comes, and then he hits it, and then it goes over there. When it gets to the any one, let's have it be small again. So I'm going to navigate right to that keyframe there by navigating with this little triangle. There we go. Let's scale it down so it sort of fits there, right? There we go. That works. Now we need to adjust the path. So I'm going to put the current time indicator basically where the tennis ball is about halfway through the motion there. Now we can't, at this point in our instruction, make the tennis ball exactly match the acceleration of that tennis ball there, but we can at least more or less match the arc of it. So I'm going to click on the keyframe there to turn on its handle. Lift its handle like so, so you can see it more or less. There's the arc of the ball there. And go over here and click on this one as well and have it match it. Let's just sort of see if that kind of fits there. More or less for a little bit. Maybe we can drop this guy down just a touch here. So we're more or less matching the arc of the tennis ball. And then now it comes out. And the thing is we want it to come out and go like this. So we need to get this handle set first. I'm going to go to the end here and click on this last keyframe. And there's its handle kind of hidden away there. I'll pull that up so we can get that thing really pulled up like that. And if I go over to this keyframe, the one there in the middle, if I start moving it, then we're going to change both the top and the bottom. We don't want to do that. We want to just affect just this line coming out here. So you need to break the handle. Hold down the Alt or the Option key to break the handle. I can let go of the mouse, let go of the Alt or the Option key, and now continue. And let's just bring it way up like that. There we go. And let's see how that guy works. Here we go. Let's turn off the motion path for a second. Just click away so you don't see the motion path. We'll try that again. And tennis anyone. And now when he hits it again, now we're going to see if the guy comes in. And here it comes. And pretty cool. One little fly in the ointment is that the tennis ball just sits there the entire time, right? We don't want that to happen. So when it starts its motion right there, that's when it should appear. You could use opacity to do that, but I can just drag over the endpoint there, over my cursor over the beginning, and just drag it over and have it just appear right there. There we go. So let's see how that works now. Wham! Okay, let me turn off the bounding box and the path. Let's go back and see how it works one more time. There you go. Cool. And there you go. So that is how you put objects in motion and customize their motion paths.